All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome into Baseball and Coffee. It's the 17th of November, 10 a.m. Today we're going to look at American League East teams. A little bit of off-season primer. As we know, stuff trickles in throughout the off-season. Josh Naylor was our first big signing, if you don't count Shane Bieber picking up his own option to stick with the Jays. But yeah, Josh Naylor sticks with the Mariners, so two guys going back to their own teams that went very far. Makes sense to me. Curious what the money is on Josh, as that could affect others, but probably won't. I think it's one of those miscommon, often evaluated improperly situations where they think just because one guy got one contract, that means everything for the next guy in the same position. Truthfully, I think it's usually more of what the market is for each individual player. Teams now are grading players differently. They have different needs. I think ultimately, the big elephant in the room is, what does the Naylor contract mean for Alonso? I mean, probably not a whole lot. Pete's got about triple the WAR of him in about the same amount of time, is 2 years older, so there's a lot of different variables that come in, who's interested, who's not. But anyway, Naylor's the first guy off the board, so that was the news from yesterday. And as we get into it today, there was a little baseball this weekend, some interesting baseball. There was a game that took place at Citi Field between a Dominican League team, All-Stars, and a Puerto Rican team, All-Stars. And there was this home run that took place with a pretty dramatic bat flip. We don't really get to see the broadcast version, but you can see homeboy Emmanuel Rodriguez at the plate until the ball lands, full bat spike, and you get a little bit of winter ball action in the United States here. So that was one fun thing that happened from a pretty soggy, cold Citi Field as these two teams played. I saw that Cano got an ovation. I wonder if he's getting ready to stop playing pretty soon. I know he played in Mexico the last 2 years in the regular season. I mean, wow. I mean, we got full skit action going on this home run the whole way around. Let's watch it one more time. So this ball is crushed, first of all. Pretty sure it goes in the second deck. But he stands there until it lands. So full winter ball action going on here. And then the second thing that was interesting was this Korea versus Japan showdown, their little WBC primer, little showdown that the two top Asian countries go at each other a little bit. But there was this play, and I hope I don't get copywritten for this, but there was this play that's pretty interesting that I wanted to show you guys. Line drive off the pitcher's foot, caught in foul territory, initially ruled a hit, and eventually they call this an out because I guess it never touched the ground. You see, they get together. This umpire is saying that's an out. Everybody's confused, including my guy here from Korea. Let's see if we can get a better look at the replay. All right, here we go. I mean, it either skips off the ground and then hits the toe, or it does hit the toe directly, but weird play. So I thought we would get our day started with this oddity here. Pretty cool. These teams are going at it right now, and I think that skips into his foot. I think that should have been a hit. But pretty cool that these two teams are going at it. I mean, not everybody's on them yet. Obviously, all the Japanese guys from the U.S. that just stopped playing are probably not participating too much in this. And I know Korea's run into a little bit of trouble in the first two games in this little series. They have walked like 10 guys in each game. So, I don't know. It doesn't really mean much, but pretty cool. Let's see if it hits his foot here, if it bounces. Oh, that's a bounce all the way. Kid got robbed of a hit. Poor guy. Anyway, Okamoto played in this, so that was interesting to watch. I'm not going to watch the whole thing. These are very long highlight clips, but they start playing the game pretty rapid. Okamoto is in there. I believe he leads off this second or third inning, maybe. Yeah, that's his fly out. I don't know. I just thought it was interesting that a couple of these guys were playing. Here was Kazuma Okamoto, one of the guys that we've been very interested in the free agent market. Batting in the 4-hole for Samurai Japan. Anyway, they just do a lot of rapid-fire stuff. But Japan, I believe, has handled them in both of the first 2 games, handled Korea, in what ultimately amounts to not really a very important situation. All right. So we'll do our quick winter ball standings check. So I'm curious. It seems like Aguilas this year is unreal. 14-3 to start off the year in the Dominican. Next best is 9-9, the Toros. So interesting. Ooh, yeah. How about the Baseball United pitchers, Camels? I didn't see a lot of this. Let me see if I can't find something on YouTube on the Baseball United, because I saw the Camel clip, but I hadn't seen any of this other stuff. Elvis Andrus singing. See, here we go. Got guys arriving by Camelback. This is fascinating. I remember I talked to Starling Marte a little bit about what the vision was for Baseball United, and I guess the vision is for it to compete as one of the better, more important winter leagues. And they have a little bit more money, so they might be able to pay some of these other guys a little bit differently than some of the winter leagues can. But anyway, this is the highlights from Baseball United Game 1, Season 1 today, which was between Karachi and Mumbai a couple days ago. I don't know. Camels driving the pitchers to the mound. I think I'd rather jog in. I'd be a little worried about the camel, but I don't know. Interesting that there's baseball going on in the Middle East. Let's go get another look at that camel. Look at this thing. I don't have any context for this. This is just different. So anyway, I thought that was fascinating. There's a whole bunch of teams. Arabia Wolves, Middle East Falcons. I don't know who's really in this game. I mean, there's Alejandro De Aza hitting. He was a former big leaguer for the Marlins, among others. And I know a guy, Alex Katz. But I don't know. This whole thing is wild. I don't understand the Moneyball rule either that Maya's talking about here. Watching a guy score from second on a hit by pitch. I don't really have a good... They have some weird rules, so it's like half real baseball, half trying to loop in some banana ball rules, I guess. Some interesting stuff like that. I don't know. But I took the cart one of my last games in Washington. Ooh, Alex Leedy. I know this guy. He played with me on Team Italy back in the day. That hitter who just struck out. I don't know. So I took the cart before because the cart seemed fun. Get a little ride in and then walk out there. I even tipped the driver. I was ready. I try to have fun with it. But the camel's a step further, obviously. I wonder if there's another camel situation here. Oh, there's a home run where the lights go off. I'm just curious what they got in Baseball United a little bit. These fields all turf. Like where do they build these situations? I don't know. This is all very interesting to me. But we'll get there when we get there. All right, let me get rid of that real quick. First team we're going to do today is the Blue Jays. Let me get in the solo shot for a second. Will I ever do Banana Ball? Yes, I would love to do Banana Ball. We've been already in contact with them, trying to figure out kind of when the opportunity will be for that. But yeah, I would love to do Banana Ball. That would be fun. Love to go out there and toss it around a little bit, have a little fun, see what happens. Put on a uniform again. I think all that would be cool. So, all right, let's get into the American League East. We're going to start with the Blue Jays. We'll go one team at a time. And just kind of go over their needs, kind of look at the free agent tracker, look for some possible fits, do a little thought experiment here. All right, so Blue Jays, obviously we know they went within, 3 feet of winning the World Series, not even. And here is their situation at the onset of the offseason. Free agents, Bo Bichette, Chris Bassett, Ty France, Sir Anthony Dominguez, IKF, Max Scherzer, and then a little bit further down, Barucki, Turnbull, Swanson, and Green. I don't know what happened with Swanson this year. I think he was there and then got hurt. But either way, he's not there anymore. Chad Green, they let him go a while early, so those guys aren't the main ones to think about. It's really Bichette, Bassett, France, Dominguez, IKF, and probably Scherzer. All right, let's look at their current projected lineup. This is minus Bichette. So right now, Springer at DH. This is a big question for them going forward, in my opinion. Can George do it again? George is coming off of just a tremendous, tremendous season. And I was thinking about it. Like, if you were to lose Bichette, then, you know, it's going to look a little bit like it looked in the World Series in the playoffs before Bichette was playing, not the World Series, the ALCS. And that's a very strong baseball team all around, even without Bo. Probably a little stronger defensively with Jimenez playing short. You can easily slide Ernie to second if you need to. But the big thing is, like, George was raking. George has been raking this whole year. And if you look at his 2025 compared to his 2024, this was a huge burst forward again, a rebirth, if you will. So I'm curious if that's going to carry over, and I think that's a big deal because without Bichette, they're going to be looking for more offense. You don't know what you're getting out of Santander. But anyway, Springer is projected DH, Lucas in left, Vlad not going anywhere forever. He's at first. Varsho, Kirk obviously is all set. Santander currently projected in right field, which is kind of where they have to play him if they're going to be DHing George. Barger, and Ernie, and Andres. So those guys really all earned starting playing time in my mind. I think, obviously, they'd love to get Bichette back. They get Bichette back. Everything gets shuffled around a little bit. Be curious if they flip-flopped Jimenez and Bo going forward, if Bo came back. Be curious if Jimenez became the shortstop and Bo became the second baseman, given their metrics. I don't know. Decent argument to be made there. I don't think they'll be looking to make a huge upgrade at third base. Or, I mean, left field maybe, Lucas. But I definitely think from an offensive standpoint, it's going to be Bichette that they're going to look to bring back into the fold. And if they don't do that, I don't know. It's a pretty good question. Oh, my wife's asking where the ladder is. Brett, are you in here? Yeah, are you in here? No? Well, you asked the question in the chat. That ladder's really hard to use. I think it's in the garage, but it's like super scary. You'll have to wait for me. Anyway. All right, what do we got in the chat about some of these first things that we were talking about first? Here's Mike V. Tucker, Bo, Michael King, and a lefty reliever in free agent, please. Well, that's a big ask. I do think starting pitching is going to be a big part of it. So, look, they need one more bat, probably a middle infielder. So Bo would fit perfectly. I don't think they really want to mess with a lot of what else they got going on here in the projected lineup. Projected bench: Heineman as the backup catcher, Leo Jimenez, Davis Schneider, Miles Straw. Those two spots, the Heineman spot and the Jimenez spot, will probably be up for grabs and come spring training a little bit. That seems to be the case most of the times with backup guys. Oh my God, my wife's going to do something with the ladder, and if I hear a thud, it's her. That's not good. That's sketchy. Anyway, so the bench, I mean, look, I think offensively they're looking just to hopefully bring Bo back. If not, they're going to have to pivot off of that. I do think they have possible room for growth, maybe in an outfield spot, or maybe corner infielder, second base. So just out of curiosity, let's go look at the free agent tracker. And let's check it out. I mean, obviously there's trades. There are also possibilities, but it's a little harder to read those sometimes. All right, let's look at like the outfielders in free agency right now. Obviously, the big swing, would be to go for a Kyle Tucker, like was being suggested up here earlier. But that's a big deal. That's a big deal. That would be massive money. I don't know if they're ready to do that. Are they ready to blow through all of the penalties? I don't know. Bader, How are they righty versus lefty real quick? Let me look at that. Righty, lefty, righty, lefty, righty switch, lefty, righty, lefty. In the outfield, lefty, lefty, righty. Okay. So that's not really a concern. Just looking at some other names here. I don't know, anybody exciting in this group? I'm not really sure. I don't think Belly will sign there. I mean, he'd be a good fit in a way. But then you're going to have to figure out what to do with, I guess Lucas would go to the bench then in that case. I don't know. I'd be looking for more of a bat replacement. So, like, if you're going to lose Bo and you're going to sign a big-time outfielder, it's got to be a bat. Ryan O'Hearn, possibility. Oh, now you're not even listening. You're freaking out about the ladder. I think she'll be okay. I don't know. Usually, if it's too sketchy, she won't do it. But we'll see. $70 million coming off the books with Bo coming off in the free agent side. They're adding payroll. So they have maybe up to $100 million in payroll to put on. All right, so let's circle back a little bit to this hitter question because they definitely need more pitchers. Right now at the pitcher, at this moment, this is what the rotation's looking like. Gosman, Savage, Berrios, who I'm a little worried about with the elbow. Bieber, that's outstanding. And then Lauer, who's a really good guy as well. He's going to be either in swingman or in that starting spot. I actually don't hate where they're at with their rotation. I'm just a little worried about Berrios. So expect them definitely to sign at least one starter. And then bullpen, I think, is where they really have a lot of room for growth. You look at the bullpen. Hoffman will be there. Yimmy will be there if he's healthy. Varland will be there. We know that. Fisher, Little, Fluharty. There's room for growth here. There's room for probably a high-end reliever, in my mind. I think that's what they need the most. So I'd be shopping in the Edwin Diaz, Devin Williams territory. Let's go look at that free agent tracker real quick on the relief pitchers. Let me get rid of the outfielders and select the relief pitchers. All right, here are our relief pitchers. Diaz, Suarez, Maton, Williams. I'm looking for back-end guys. So Keller is a possibility, especially if they reshuffle that infield defense a little bit. Lefty relievers, if you really want a lefty, you're looking at Thielbar, Stevie Matz, who used to be a J, Justin Wilson, Hobie Milner would be a good matchup guy. I could see Milner being a fit there. Hobie Milner, I could see that. Ferguson, Soto, if you're into velocity. Pomeranz is an interesting one. He pitched pretty well. He's on the older side of things. Coulomb, what kind of year did Danny Coulomb have last year? $55 games with a 2.3. This guy's been sneaky dominant the last few years, Danny Coulomb. So I don't know. I think I also really like this idea from Jason, Raciel Iglesias. I actually think that's a really good fit. If they're gonna spend huge in other parts of the market, like if they do decide to go for a Tucker or Bellinger or somebody like that, then they're probably looking for a guy who's not going to be quite 4 or 5 year deal, like a Diaz or a Devin Williams. Helsley could be a buy low option. Brandon Lee in the chat. They liked him a lot in the trade talks. I don't know. Looking at their current bullpen, I mean, if you can slide Hoffman back into a setup role, Yimmy into a setup role, Varland can stay in that fireman role. I think you would love to get one more lefty, or you're hoping for a Little or Fluharty to take the next step, and then I think that closer type, which would be interesting to see. But I think the top guys in the bullpen are definitely going to be interesting to see how this plays out. This is my projected WAR now. So Diaz, a clear number 1. I don't know why Monty's in here, but Helsley, Devin Williams, Suarez, Matz. I'm not a big risk taker on Hunter Harvey. He's been hurt almost every year. Fairbanks, I think the cold weather. I know they're in a dome. That could scare me away. Martin, I don't think he's playing anymore. Iglesias, I like a lot. So, man, I like Iglesias more than Dominguez. So instead of maybe bringing back Sir Anthony, I'd be looking in that group for a lockdown closer. I'd be looking at, depending on their budget, Iglesias, Helsley, Williams, Diaz, any of those guys, Suarez. Really, all my top 5 relievers, I would say, feels pretty good. According to the score, that Jays met with Diaz's agent. So, I mean, Diaz is looking for 100. I think that'll be interesting to see what Edwin ends up getting. But yeah, I like the Blue Jays for 2 bullpen moves, 1 starter move. Now, I would like to see them bring Bassett back, personally. I think he would fit nicely. But let's take a look at the free agent starters. Understanding that Barrios might be hurt. And Lauer, they have room for upgrade in the Lauer spot. So let's look at the starters by projected WAR right now. All right, I don't think they should go for. I don't think they're going to shop in the Cease. Although Valdez would be a hell of a splash. Man, if they're going to spend big, why not a lefty? Why not a lefty? They don't really have any lefty in the rotation besides Lauer. Right now, I'm trying to think how to have more variety. So you have 2 split guys at the top, Gausman and Savage. Then you got Bieber, more of a command righty. I think they could use like a power breaking ball righty, or they could really use a lefty. I like Valdez as a fit for them. That would really elevate their ceiling. Now, if you throw Framber in there with Gausman, Savage, and Bieber, you're talking about one of the best rotations in the game. But they're going to have their pick here. I mean, there's a lot of capable guys in this starting group here. Like, it's pretty damn good. There's even going to be some bargain bin guys like Quintana at the back end who aren't going to move the needle much, but they'll be great in a 4 and 5. I don't know why, but I don't see Amai going there necessarily. You know, a sneaky buy low candidate is Herman Marquez for teams. There's actually a ton of dudes out here. This is going to be a very interesting free agency, but if the Blue Jays are going to go big, I would suggest going for one of the lefties. I would suggest going for a Framber or a Ranger Suarez, one of those 2. I really would like. Let's see what we got in the chat. Barrios looked really pissed that he wasn't on the roster for the playoffs. You could see it during the celebrations. I think he's leaving Toronto. He's still under contract. Jose, right? He's got a few more years. Let me go look into that right now. I mean, more often than not, he's probably just pissed because he can't be a part of it, you know? It sucks. Nothing worse than being a guy with your team and then getting to the biggest moment and then, you know, just not going to work out. All right, so 2026, Barrios can opt out after this year. So 1 more plus the player option makes sense. So really, the Blue Jays are hoping he's healthy, because if he's not, he's going to probably end up, you know, getting surgery or something like that and being out most of this year, and they're going to be on the hook for almost $19 million that he's not even going to pitch for you, and then he'll be gone the next year if he opts out. Once he's healthy. But I don't know. Barrios being down, I think, is a big part of this, actually, because now I think they're definitely required to go back in for a starter for sure. Are there any prospects that could impact this? Gausman, Savage, Barrios, Bieber, Lauer. Definitely think they're going to need another one. All right, what else we got here? Why not go really big? Trade Savage for Skubal. Oof. I think it would take more than just to trade Savage to pry Tarek Skubal away from the Tigers. But, you know, that's, you know, you're penciling in Savage right now as one of your 5. So if you make that move, you're still going to have to add more starters, and then you're going to have to go a little lower end. So would you rather go for a higher end starter, just money, and still have Savage, or would you rather trade Savage in a package to go after Skubal? Maybe now you have Skubal, so you have your super duper ace, which is awesome. But now you're going to still have to fill in the back end of your rotation with more guys. So I don't know. They could go at it a number of different ways. If Skubal's really on the market, then I think you have to at least check in on that. Because I do think getting the big dog lefty at the front of the rotation ahead of Gausman, Savage, Bieber, that would be crazy. I guess it wouldn't be Savage at that point. He'd probably have to be in the deal. People are mentioning Tiedemann. He didn't pitch this year, right? Ricky Tiedemann right here, ranked as the number 3 prospect currently, mainly because he's been hurt. This is a guy who could change their plans a little bit. You see a lot of times nowadays teams really believing in their young guys. If they believe that this guy can come in and be a part of their club, whether it's starting or relieving, that's going to change some of their targeting this offseason a little bit. But I know he's been hurt, so it's a little bit of a concern with this guy. I mean, he didn't pitch at all. Yeah, he literally pitched 0 innings this year, and really, if you go back a while, I mean, 2024, 17 innings, 2023, 44 innings, 2022, 78 innings. So it's a little bit of an interesting scenario, and I don't really know enough about him to understand what's going on with him physically, but I don't know. He seems like the only real guy at the very, very tippy top of this ranking that could impact. Now, who is Jake Bloss? Let's look into this guy. Is this guy a position player? No, he's a pitcher. He's a starting pitcher, 24 years old, AAA. Just getting the AAA. Got traded over from Houston. I don't see too much of that. I guess that's it. I guess that's kind of it right now about who you would be worrying about impacting right now. I saw they already outrighted Nick Sandlin, Dylan Tate, Ryan Burr. Bloss had TJ surgery this year. Okay. Bloss was the 3rd piece in the Kikuchi trade with Loperfido. Okay. Got it. So this is the concern about Tiedemann now. People are saying he's a bullpen guy at best. But if he's electric, you might catch lightning in a bottle from the left side there. Do I feel the Blue Jays offense overperformed last year? Will they continue like that this year? I think they're good. I think the biggest wild cards are whoever the replacement is for Bichette or Bichette coming back. Like, that's a big deal. That's a big piece of their offense. And also Springer. Like, I see a lot of these other guys on an upward trajectory. I think Kirk is right in the prime of his career. I think Vlad is just rocket ship up from this point forward. I think Clement really showed a lot. Jimenez didn't show much with the bat, but he played better, I thought, in the postseason. Barger showed pretty good. Santander gave you nothing. If he can get healthy, he could be a factor. So I don't mind a lot of their offensive stuff, and I think that it's sustainable for sure. But I'm a little worried about Springer just because you never know when it's going to fall back off the cliff, and they have to replace him. So they need a big bat, whether it's Bo or whether they're going to pivot and go crazy with like a different type of upgrade, like an outfield upgrade. Is there any middle infielders right now that are super interesting on the free agent market except for Bo? Let's see. Second basemans and shortstops. I mean, Glaber, I don't really see that as being a great fit personally. Hassan Kim is interesting because he's defensive. So if you paired him with Jimenez up the middle, that could be an interesting duo. Dan M saying Springer's giving major 2021 Crawford vibes. Yeah, it's just like, I love what he did this year, and I love how he came back with a vengeance. But you'd be remiss to not mention that it doesn't usually last too much further beyond that, and that could be a major problem for them since they're definitely relying on him a lot. But these are the other infielders, Jorge Polanco could be. I'm just thinking of other ways they can pivot if they don't get Bichette and they go pitcher, but they still need to upgrade their offense. I don't mind Hassan Kim because he's a good defender. I know he's been hurt. Arise would just add more contact, but horrible defense. I don't see that. He's not going to play first. Polanco, I don't know. Torres, I'm not in love with any of these others. And I think they clearly need to be operating in the top echelon of free agency since they're one of the better teams. So I definitely think they have one big bullet to shoot for sure. Whether that's bringing back Bichette or bringing in like a Framber, I don't know. But they have one big bullet to shoot, and then they have a bunch of complementary bullets to shoot. And I would like to see them go big on the personally, I like to see them go big in the bullpen with one of the big 3 or 4 guys. But I don't know. Bullpen to me is the number one issue. Starters, they need at least one starter, and they need to figure out what their big bullet is on the offensive side. They have a lot of work to do. They have a lot of work to do, no doubt. But you got to like the position they're in, based on how far they went. But I do think I don't know. They have a million different ways they could pivot. I do think the trade option for Scooble's intriguing, but what are you going to have to give up for that? What are you going to have to give up for Scooble? Let's see here. In the chat here. So Brandon Lee's saying the biggest wild card in the lineup is Lucas. I agree. I mean, he's a career minor leaguer. He's not supposed to be this guy. So you're going to have to watch him like a hawk. That's why I could see an outfield upgrade potentially in the works. And maybe you push him back to a bench role. Jays core all in their mid-20s. That World Series was a massive experience boost for them. Agreed. You just start to worry about what are your possible downfalls. Like if Springer falls off a cliff, that's a possibility. If Barrios is hurt, that's a big deal. So those are the things you have to watch out for. Could trade for Ketel Marte or Kwan. They want to do trades using Barrios as a piece, but Barrios is going to have to be healthy for that to take place. Ketel Marte would be insane. You get Ketel Marte, you're effectively upgrading from Bo. You move Jimenez over to short. Now you're cooking with gas. Now you got a switch hitting monster in the middle of that lineup to pair with Vlad. I don't hate that idea. Will they trade him? I don't know, but that'd be great. Kwan fits their team like a glove as well. You put Kwan in left, you bat him lead off, and you just let it go. Or you bat him two-hole or something. You know, you find a good spot in there next to Springer because Kwan's one of the best all-around players in the game. Also fits their offensive philosophy as well. So I would love that. But let's not get it twisted. Those guys are big trade packages as well. So that'd be interesting to see. How do I feel about Naylor re-signing with the Mariners? I mean, I love it when a team knows what they want. They make the offer, and then the player wants to be there, and it all comes together. Seems like everybody's happy. So I like it from that perspective. I also like that, you know, the Mariners see the impact he had, and they weren't afraid to go back at it. So I've heard nothing but positive things about the Jays now going on a few years, and I think that momentum is stronger than ever. I've heard that they're engaged in every market. I mean, I'm not a Jeff Passan. I'm not at the meetings, you know, messing with the rumor mill. But I do think a lot of people will want to jump on this Jays bandwagon for sure. I think that's fair to say. Yeah, and they don't have a ton of prospect capital either, which is part of the issue. They would have to probably deal off their big league roster, so you're looking at a Savage being in that trade, and I think that's tough to swallow right now. I think if I were them, I'd let it ride, and I'd more make complimentary signings around him. But if you can go for Framber, that they should be in the Framber business. I know he's you know, considered a little bit of a clubhouse issue, but man, he would look great at the top of this rotation, in my opinion. I saw Miles Straw was out there recruiting Kyle Tucker. I mean, look, if Tuck's going to get a huge deal, so you take a swing for him, but then that's going to prohibit you from probably doing a few other things. So, you know, the price is going to be very interesting on Kyle Tucker, how big that can get. Like, does that get over 400 million? It's going to be interesting to say. Probably not a lot for Lucas in a trade would be my guess. I don't really see it. I think he's more of a complementary piece, not anything anybody's going to build around. He's already 31. So you said a few years, but I feel like every other year they offer a couple people the most money and get told no. Well, I mean, the Ohtani thing was doomed from the start. I mean, he was clearly going to stay on the West Coast. I think he did his due diligence with Toronto, and that was a necessary thing to go through. But I don't think it was an indictment on the Blue Jays. I think that was more just Ohtani was given the Godfather offer by the Dodgers, the one that he wanted to give to every team, and it's the most comfortable situation. And, you know, I know that there's a Japanese marketing firm. I can't remember the name of it right now, Gensu, something like that, but they are totally involved on the agency side, and they want these dudes all together with the Dodgers. That's semi-inside job. It's not an official inside job, but, you know, it's part of the reason why these guys get paid so much money in Japan is because they're marketed directly the way that this marketing company wants them to, and that's being on the Dodgers. So it all kind of works in works in concert for those guys to end up over there. But I do think the Blue Jays, like, their vibes have vibrated around the league, if that makes sense. People are very curious about what's going on there. I've seen this in the past, and I think that's where they are right now. I wouldn't be real comfortable counting on 150 innings plus from any of Trey, Berrios, or Bieber. I would agree with that, although I think Bieber, the kid gloves will be off. Trey will be right around there. And Berrios, I'm honestly worried about his elbow. We don't have a ton of information on that. And the big one that hurt was Burns turning down the 230 plus last year. You know what? Burns got Tommy John, though. So they took a swing at him. He clearly wanted to be home in Arizona, which is where he lives in the offseason. So that makes sense why he did that. But I don't know. It's just fascinating to see what they do. They're one of the big dominoes in free agency this year is the Jays, in my mind. The Jays have a lot of money. They have a lot of momentum going for them. They're going to be a real player. And this is an exciting time to be a free agent if the Jays are interested in you, because that's just going to up your suitors, like your high-level suitors. A lot of times you want to draw in the biggest suitors, around the league. You want to have the Dodgers involved, the Giants involved, the Red Sox involved, the Yankees involved, the Mets involved, the Cubs, etc. The Blue Jays are like that, and especially this offseason, so that's going to be a big deal. All right, let me get into the solo shot for a moment, and then we'll head over and look at Baltimore next. Atkins said Barrios should have a normal offseason, be ready for spring. See, this is great information, Wesley. I appreciate that. If this is the case, and they feel good about that, I feel very good then about that they only going to need the one pitcher. And now a trade, if you salvages enough with some small pieces to get Skubal, you absolutely do that. And you try to push across the line. If not, if you can't do it without to the point of uncomfortability, maybe you shift into Framber mode. If the price is too high, then you shift into the next level down mode, Ranger Suarez mode. And if it's not that, then you're back to like Bassett and people like that. And a Bassett would be a nice piece either way to bring back, but I think you're looking for a 1 or 2 year deal. You don't want to get locked into any too much on an older player. And then you pivot to the big fish in the bullpen, Edwin, Williams, Suarez, etc. I think that's how you attack the pitching part of it. The hitting part of it, man, you got to be engaged in each market. You got to be engaged in the Tucker market. You definitely got to be engaged in the Bo market. You're hoping that the relationship with Bichette allows you to throw out an early offer that's satisfactory to him. But I have no idea how his free agency is really going to go. I think that's interesting. Here's another interesting idea. Edward Cabrera. So are the Marlins willing to part with Edward Cabrera? He'd be another interesting piece. He's got tremendous stuff. Pitches off that changeup, one of the better changeups in the game. So I don't know. Trade market's always a possibility as well, but again, it takes the right combination. Sandy is another possibility. Sandy Alcantara is another possibility. So the Jays are kind of in it with everything, and I like it because you go ahead and look at this projected lineup. There's a lot to like without having touched anything. You got your DH, who you're hoping can put up, even 80% of his year last year. You got Lucas, who got great playoff experience. Then you got Vlad, Varsho, Kirk, Barger, Clement, and Jimenez, who you feel great about. Santander, obviously you're worried about. You need to have him have a healthy offseason, and hopefully he can impact the team. That's the signing that could hurt this team long term. If they had more flexibility and no Santander, yeah, they could be doing some things right now. I think they'd be really in. They could maybe make the best offer for Tucker. We'll see. And then, if they do make some signings, guys like Lucas can get pushed to the bench. Some things can get mixed up. And then I think definitely in their case, even though they have a solid rotation, I do think they could use the one super duper ace. So I would like to see them go for Framber personally, but we'll see what they do. And then bullpen, they need a top end guy there too. And I think they're in the moment. They're in the moment to strike. So that's my Blue Jays thoughts. Thanks for you guys in the chat to going over the Jays. And now I think we should go over the Orioles. Now the Orioles are an interesting team in that they were projected to be like a first place team last year in the AL East. They seem to have this momentum, this unbelievable core of white, blue eye, blonde haired, position players that have speed and power and defense and everything kind of all together. But then they didn't really support it with any type of pitching moves last year, and it really backfired, and the team did horrible and came in last place. So, you just got to take a deep breath. Here are their free agents. They're going to lose Sugano and Eflin from the rotation, which are two guys that don't have any swing and miss in their game. They're good pitchers, but this is the issue with the Orioles. Zero stuff. They just had no stuff. They couldn't get any whiff. I think they're going to address that, and they're going to fix that this year. Also losing Sanchez, which is fine because they have Basayo, Carlson, who didn't really play for them, and Mateo, who was kind of redundant as well. Here is the batting order. If it started today, these are the starters. Jackson Holliday, that's great. Jordan Westbrook, that's great. Gunnar Henderson, that's great. Adley Rutschman, that's great. Beavers just called up. He's a potential big-time talent. Tyler O'Neill is still there. Colton Cowser, Basayo, Mayo. Now, just really quick to look at how they were acquired, just to see the draft pedigree of these guys. Jackson Holliday, first overall pick. Jordan Westbrook, first rounder, 30th pick. Represent, baby, 30th pick. That's me too. Gunnar Henderson, second round, but we know he's a super duper star when he's right. Adley Rutschman, first overall pick. Dylan Beavers, 33rd overall pick. Colton Cowser, 5th overall pick. Basayo was one of the highest paid Dominican free agents as a free agent. Cowser was, I said, 5th overall pick. Kobe Mayo was a 4th round pick. And then even further down, Ryan Mountcastle was a 1st round pick. So they're just absolutely just chock full of these position player talents. Now, what makes their offense go or not go is these two guys in the middle, Gunnar Henderson and Adley Rutschman. They both kind of stunk this year relative to their normal level. I don't want to look at Fangraphs for that. I just don't like them. So let me go to Gunnar, because this is like a big key for them next year. They need him to be back to being Gunnar Henderson. 17 home runs this year, 37 the year before. Now, if you look at a lot of the slash line stuff, it's not that far off. He ends up with a 787 OPS. He had an 893 the year before, which when I thought he was probably one of the top 2 most important players in the game in terms of trade value, along with Bobby Witt. I thought he was right there. But I don't know, just didn't have a great year with as many, let's see, let's go through the percentile rankings and see what really dropped. Expected slugging at 52nd percentile, barrels, 46. I bet we can go find it down here. Yeah, all right. So expected slugging, expected ISO. So it's all in the power department, and then he ended up striking out a little more, but nothing scary. The whiffs are about the same, and then the defense really dropped too. So, okay, so his swing length, Gunnar Henderson's swing got a little bit longer, and that probably hurt him. I know he had a shoulder thing in spring training, and he probably just never got himself together. He needs to have an excellent offseason in terms of health, and they're really counting on that. And he's number 1 guy I wanted to look at, and the other guy, which this one shocked me because there was a little while there where I was thinking this was another guy that probably, how do you spell this? There it is, Rutschman. Another guy that you could probably start your franchise with and feel pretty good about, because you know how I'm obsessed with catchers. But the hitting has really dropped off a cliff. You look at the last 3 years, 809 OPS in 23, when he was one of the best 10 players in the sport, probably when you consider catching as well and age, or most valuable players in the sport. 24, 709 OPS, and then last year, 673 OPS, only 9 homers, hit 220, 307 on base. I don't know. This is really hard to know. I didn't watch enough Orioles baseball this past year to get a great sense of Adley. But I'm curious to looking down here in the metrics if there's anything that's super obvious that stands out from the previous few years. He was never really hitting it hard. The max EV is still the same. Just not as accurate with the barrel. His chase rate was even good this year, so he fixed a lot of that. I'm curious if his bat swing metrics at all. Bat speed droppage, so that could be part of it. Here, let me go look at bat speeds. Bat tracking. All right, he doesn't even qualify. So now we need to go to 100 swings. That doesn't make any sense. Oh, because I didn't update. Sometimes you got to click the button. All right, let's see if I can go start year 2023, group by season update. I see this comment here that apparently he's on the block. I mean, I know they have Samuel Basayo. I get it. But you don't want to sell this guy low. You don't want to sell low on this guy. He's too talented. All right, so let's see here. This is just some bat tracking methods. So he got his bat speed. His bat speed's fine. Swing length's the same. Not seeing anything in the bat tracking. Nothing in the bat tracking. So that's interesting. Let's go back to 2022 when he was raking. Chase percentage was great. Walks were great. Whiff, everything was good. What was down at that time? Exit velo, hard hit. Okay, so that doesn't seem like that ever changed. 23, another great year, but it's still the same profile. 24 is slippage. Just not impacting the ball the same. Maybe the league has figured out how to pitch him a little bit better, and he's still putting balls in play, but he's putting in a lot of pitches in play, if that makes sense. Also, his catching metrics have really dropped off. I don't know. If I were running the Orioles, I would really do a full investigation into what's going on with him. I would love to know what the deal with him is physically, because I don't think you can sell when he's at his low point here. I think you got to ride him out for at least another year. Try to build back some of that value and then make a decision on him. I thought he was somebody that was maybe going to be up for a huge extension a year or two ago. He seems to make it clear he didn't want that. But anyway, I think those two guys are just so massive for the Orioles. Let me get rid of the Jays here. They're just so massive for the Orioles if they want to do anything offensively, because I don't think they're going to do anything with their offense. Complementary moves at best. It should be all pitching moves. Yeah, his bat speed is low. It's never been good though. I looked at it the whole time. And it seems like he is never healthy these days, fully healthy, and that could be it. You know, catching is tough. But at the end of the day, like, you know, he's drafted first overall. Like, you know, he's shown it. He's been a couple-time All-Star. This offseason's massive for him. They need to have a really good player plan for him and kind of be able to figure that out. So, all right. So I don't think they're going to be doing much offensively. I think they kind of, overall, this is kind of what you're going to see. This will be the lineup on the bench. Alex Jackson, so maybe they're in the market a little bit for another catcher. I know they have Basayo, who will definitely be on this roster. Currently, they have him listed as DH. Mountcastle, Jeremiah Jackson, Leody Taveras. So the bench might get moved around a little bit. Let's look at the starting pitching, because to me, this is the area that's just inexcusable that they didn't make the squad better last year. Now, the big deal was Grayson Rodriguez not pitching. Number one, they need Grayson Rodriguez healthy. If Grayson Rodriguez is healthy, you put him back in the rotation, and he's a dude. But I love the fact that Bradish is finally healthy. Tyler Wells looked really good coming back, and we know what Trevor Rogers did. I still think they need to add 2 guys to this mix, and then they need a complete bullpen overload. Bullpen overload. They just got Kittredge back. They kind of purchased that option from the Cubs. Keegan Aiken. I mean, this is just a shit bullpen, if we're being honest. Cano's kind of dropped off quite a bit. He's not what he once was. Yeah, 5.12 last year. He never really had any strikeout rate. Let me go look a little bit on Savant. Here's Yenier Cano. Yeah, I mean, look, first of all, he's been worn out. 72 games in 23, 70 in 24, and then 65 last year. Numbers just going in the opposite direction. His whole game is ground balls, but his big issue is his K rate. He doesn't get miss. In 24, the K rate was above average. In 23, it was right around average. 22 doesn't matter, but in 25, it got well below average. And if you're not going to be able to get Ks and you're giving up hard contact on the ground all the time, a lot of times those balls are going to get through, and you start to become a tougher option to trust and leverage. We talked about it a little bit with Rogers, underhand Rogers from the Mets. You know, these are good pitchers, but when you don't have any element of strikeouts in your game, you know, it starts to make you tough. You can't use you really as a fireman. You need clean innings. You need batted ball luck. So it's a little bit of an issue. Also, the walks have gone completely in the opposite direction. This was probably what made Cano elite at the time, was 96th percentile walk. And now you look at the last two, 27th and 22nd. That's not non-tenable when you don't have any strikeouts in your games. K rate being below average, it's just not going to get it done. So I don't have any real faith in him anymore. personally, and I think this bullpen needs a total overhaul. They could use a lockdown closer. I don't think Kittredge is that guy. They could certainly use some more setup guys. They'll have a huge, huge list of quality relievers to go after. Let's go look at those relievers again. Go look at projected WAR for this year. I mean, even not including the guys at the top. Fairbanks, Hunter Harvey used to be an Oriole. I don't know how that will go. Dominguez was there. Soto was there. I mean, really, Pagan could be a guy on their radar. I don't think D-Rob will sign again until midseason. You know, do you believe in a Jordan Romano bounce back? Sean Armstrong was quietly really good last year. Coulomb was there before. They actually non-tendered him when he was after like a 2.2 ERA a couple years ago. Luke Weaver could be an option. Yep, Weaver could be an option. Got a question here about what are the common reasons for a younger catcher to drop off defensively. I just think catching is such a tough job. It wears you down much more than the other positions. I think of a young Gary Sanchez when I played with him. You know, you could just tell how tired he was, how tired his legs were, how tired his brain was from processing. It affected him offensively. Eventually, it started to affect him defensively. It's a tough position. I'm surprised that Rushman's fallen off a little bit, so it tells me there might be some health issues there because he has such good focus. He's such a locked-in player that you would think he'd have no problem. But I don't know. Catching's just a beast. It's just a bear of a responsibility. Rushman is in a weird spot. They have Basayo up, a significant downgrade for defense. If they think Adley can come anywhere close to 2023 form, slump from 2024. Yes, this is why I said, look, Basayo does not feel to me to be much of an everyday catcher. He feels like a beast offensively, probably a DH first base type, which is great. They need the offense. He's potentially a huge deal for them coming through their system. But yeah, he's not going to be the catcher, so they have to try to get as much as they can out of Rushman this year. And then I guess we'll kind of see like that. And I don't agree with this. The ABS framing I think framing's still the exact same. It's just now it's a matter of batter perception, pitcher perception, catcher perception, which we don't understand on a team-to-team level yet. So that'll be interesting to see. But they're still going to be framing everything. That makes it harder for everybody to know when to challenge. So framing will still be happening every pitch. You can't anticipate the challenge. So it'll all be important. But anyway, that's my initial thoughts on the Blue Jays. So I think they're going to be shopping heavily in the pitcher market, both bullpen and starting. I do love the fact that they have this guy coming back, Mr. Kyle Bradish. Let me pop him up over here because he was hurt, but he's on the upswing to the point where every time I watch him pitch, I kind of feel like he's an ace. He's an ace or a number two. Full-time, big-time swing and miss, dominates opposite-handed hitters. These are his last 44 starts. 283, 275, 253. So he's on his way. So if you're the Orioles, you need a couple things this year to click for you. Number one, you need to have our guy Grayson Rodriguez healthy. Because if we can get this guy healthy, who didn't pitch at all last year, you have probably a number two, number three-ish starter. Bradish is a number one, number two-ish starter. Tyler Wells showed good. Rogers showed good. You have the beginning of a rotation, but you'd like to have one more impact guy there and way more depth. I think they were really bad with depth, and then the bullpen, I think, needs to be completely rebuilt outside of Kittredge and maybe Aiken. And I don't think you mess with the lineup too much. You just constantly, evaluate these guys and try to figure out who you believe in, who you don't believe in, who has trade value, who doesn't have trade value. And you kind of go from there. In terms of prospects, who do they have coming up that can impact this org in the relatively short time frame? Obviously, we know about Basayo. We know about Kobe Mayo, Chase McDermott, much older, 26.6. I think Enrique Bradford Jr., way down in the bottom, Vanderbilt guy, he could impact this team defensively. He gives them another speed element. Look for him to impact the club this year at some point. Brandon Young, we almost saw throw a no-hitter, but then he immediately got hurt after that. And I don't know a whole lot about Austin Overn or Elvin Garcia or really any of these other dudes. Now, there's a question here about Batista. I think it's a write-off. Shoulder surgery, I just don't expect him. You cannot expect him to come back and do anything. It's a bad injury. Any way you slice it. Shoulder injury for Batista, no bueno. So that's not good. And that's why part of the reason why I think they really need a closer. I don't think Kittredge is that guy. Oh, we have a little bit of breaking news. Free agent pitcher Ryan Yarbrough and the Yankees are closing in a 1-year deal. Perfect fit. You know, swingman, you know, liked being there. So the Yankees get him back. They did the same with Tim Hill when they picked up his contract. You know, Yankees are really good at this. They get depth around the edges, guys that can really impact the team. You saw it with Weaver a few years ago, turned into an elite reliever. They don't mess around with their depth. Yarbrough is a good piece. So they bring him back in. Good move for them. And speaking of the Yankees, they're going to be coming up soon. I think my next team is actually the Tampa Bay Rays. All right, Tampa Bay Rays are next. Orioles, we went over them. I think it's all pitching, basically, for what they need. All right, Rays. Now, Rays are in an interesting spot because, as we know, they don't really spend any money. If they do, it's going to be complimentary pieces for the most part, and then they're going to be wheeling dealing with their trade market. So they're a tough team to look at and know what they're thinking. But here is the current lineup as it stands today. Chandler Simpson, Yandy Diaz, one of my favorite players. Brandon Lau got his option picked up. Of course, Junior Caminero, Jonathan Aranda, who had a breakout last year. Then there's Johnny DeLuca, Josh Lowe, Taylor Walls, Nick Fortes. Now, the bottom of this order is trash offensively. They need to work on that big time. I do think Carson Williams is a defensive type prospect that will get himself into this conversation a little bit more consistently going forward, but they're usually a platoon heavy team, also focused on defense. Of course, they could use upgrades on this team pretty much from everybody from the 6th spot down in the order and their bench, but it's not really their style. Their style is more mix and match, try to find opportunity. So it's almost impossible to figure out what they're going to do offensively, but they definitely need some upgrades, and the bottom of the order is just not good. I like their top 5. After that, I don't really like it. Starting pitching. So this is a position that they've dominated for years. They've had incredible starters, but they're starting to show some cracks a little bit with their system. Now, I love Rasmussen, I love Pepio, and I love McClanahan if he can be healthy. Boz, to me, took a little bit of a step back this year. And they tried to mess with his mix a little bit, and they tried to give him more cutter, which I thought, when I studied him a little bit this year, was suicide. So previous year, came back off injury, finished the year with 79 innings and 14 starts and a 306 and a 106 whip. So looked to be on the severe upswing. This year makes all 31 starts, but a 4.87. And if you look at him metrically, you know, what does he have going for him? He still throws hard, still gets a relative amount of chase, probably because of his velocity, but too many walks and too many barrels. Those are the main two things. This cutter shape here, these brown dots being directly in the middle of average, is crazy to me. He's got a very normal arm angle. There's no deception with Shane Baz. I think when he throws these cutters, it probably brings down a little bit of the effectiveness of the shape of his four seam. And ultimately, I think it's a pitch that's just going to get walloped, and I'm stunned that they're using it this much. If I was him, I think the cutter would be a minor piece for me, mostly for chase. It would not be a zone pitch for me. It'd be fastball, it'd be curveball. Definitely got to lean into that curveball more. Anyway, let's look at his pitch values from this year, and this is a little bit what I was talking about. -5 run value on cutter, -8 on slider. So all those gyro-type pitches have been a disaster for Baz, and that's a little bit of their concern going forward. I think just from a development standpoint, they'll try to rework his mix and make him a little bit more of an active part of their rotation, you know, continuing to move forward. But there's been a little slippage in Baz, no doubt. 37-degree arm angles, fairly normal. He still has that velocity, but I do think that it's interesting to see when a guy who dominates with very tippy top of the scale velocity, when he starts to lose that and it's not quite the same level of effectiveness, how does he pivot? They tried to pivot with this cutter. That did not work. So I think the big question is, how do they rework the mix? He did get his walk rate, his chase rate better, 62% chase this year. Walk rate's still questionable. He got his contact numbers looking a little better in terms of hard hit and exit velo, but the barrel's backed up. And this is the issue with sometimes cutters for me, and I've talked about it a lot. At times you will get in on the hands and you will get really weak exit velo, which looks nice on paper, but when you're not getting those, you're getting straight barrels, pull side fly balls. Pull side fly balls are homers, so it's going to crush your slugging. I don't know. I'm a little worried about Boz a little bit for the Rays. Let's go back and look at some other dudes. Ian Seymour is an interesting, kind of a strange slot lefty that's right now in the 5 spot. You know, big question for them is what do they do with this guy, Griffin Jax? Griffin Jax got traded over in the Taj Bradley deal from the Twins. He's a guy with a huge pitch mix. Let me go look at him on Savant for a second, because I love that they were able to pry him free and that they might be able to convert him into a starter. This is a possibility for them. Here's a question, and yes, I agree that a trade deadline at the winter meetings would be ideal. That would be exciting, but for the fans, but also then after that, the only way to improve your team for a stretch is free agency. So in theory, that would open up, that would grease the market a little bit, in my opinion. All right, here's the Griffin Jacks. I understand this is as well. They're looking for a catcher. We're going to talk about JT as a possibility and some others in a second, but I want to take a quick look at Griffin Jacks. Griffin Jacks is a relief pitcher, setup relief pitcher, dominant type relief pitcher. I know he had a weird year this year. He's now thrown 71, 72, and 73 games in the last 3 years, so showing good durability. He came 1 strikeout short of the Holy Grail this year with the 100 punchies out of the bullpen. So you can look at some of his ERA and you can just kind of ignore that. This guy's a lot nastier than what his ERA showed, but also look at the big, robust pitch mix. Sweeper, changeup, four-seam, sinker, and cutter. I think he's a starting candidate. I'd be interested to see if the Rays look to make that move with him. And if they do, then maybe the rotation's a little better off than I thought. I think the health of McClanahan is an important thing to look at as well. But yeah, if they can maybe move Griffin Jackson to that rotation, that could up the upside of the rotation. And if not, you might have a closer in Griffin Jackson. So one way or another, I really like that move. And we all know what they're going to do in the bullpen. They're going to have explosive velocity. They're going to have righties and lefties, all different arm angles, and they're just going to mix and match throughout the whole year. 2 perfect examples of this is Mason Montgomery down here, who debuted, I believe, last year or maybe the year before. He's a lefty up to about 100. Didn't have a great season, but this is the type of guy that they look to develop all day long and, you know, force into the right matchups. Forrest Whitley, who's been on 40-mans for what seems like 6-7 years between the Astros and now getting over here. They even just put him back on the 40-man. So they're clearly hunting stuff over everything else. This has always been their way. They're going to be back in their trop, in their cozy place. They're going to set up down the middle. They're going to spam their pitches, and that's what they're going to do. In terms of free agency, I have no freaking idea what they're going to do. Now, one spot that's been brought up in the chat that makes sense is catcher. They have nothing going on at catcher. Right now it's Fortes and Hunter Fiducia, and I don't think they have any big-time catching prospects coming up to possibly take over. So they are in the market for catchers. So let's go look at the catchers a little bit. Also, this Trey Morgan, who's on this prospect list, is an interesting first base prospect. Played at LSU. You guys might have seen him in the College World Series. He's like a defensive guy, contact hitting first baseman guy, not the type of guy that you see a ton of. But it'd be interesting to see him get to the big leagues. I'd be curious to see how that goes. Looks like also Brody Hopkins, Xavier Isaac, and Yonel Cure are all FV, future value, 50 or above. So that's pretty good to see. Carson Williams was an interesting one too. We did a watching, not a watching, but I watched him when he debuted last year. He's a defensive prospect, Carson Williams. Not really much of a hitter yet, but definitely going to be providing value on that side of the ball, even though they already have Taylor Walls there, who's another possibility in terms of defense at least. So I don't know. Rays are a tough team. I probably don't know enough about what they're thinking, and I don't think anybody knows what they're thinking because they're the Rays. So we're probably just going to move on from Tampa. Although let me look real quick at the catchers. Who are the catchers on the market? So here are your catcher options. JT Realmuto, Victor Caratini, Danny Jansen, Austin Hedges already signed, Vasquez, Sanchi, Mitch Garver, James McCann, Male, Elias Diaz, Tom Murphy, Austin Barnes. I mean, there's some intriguing guys, both offensively and defensively. I think they're still going to value defense. JT would be the big get. Don't see him necessarily signing there. I don't have really a great reason for that, but I feel like since he's been on a big market team the past few years, it'd be interesting to see him going to the Rays. So I don't know. I think they're in the market for any of these catchers. They need a new catcher, and they don't want to mess up too much with what they have going. with their pitching strategy, so it's going to have to have some sort of idea of how to buy in there as well. So I don't think they're going to pay him. I agree. Rays won't pay him. And they used to have Jansen, so they are familiar with Jansen. That's true. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with JT, and I don't know a lot about Fiducia. I know they got him in the trade from the Dodgers along with Johnny DeLuca, right? Josh Foreman. That's my my thoughts a little bit there. But this is just such a tough team to look at. I truly have no idea what they're going to do. All right, let's move on. Let's move on and let's go look at the Red Sox and then the Yankees, and then we'll do Nolan in about 25 minutes. So Red Sox and Yankees. All right, let's move on to the big two traditional powers of the AL East. Red Sox ended up getting in that wild card, losing to the Yankees in the division series. But they had an interesting year. They traded away Rafael Devers. They brought up a bunch of young guys. You saw the debuts of Marcelo Meyer, Roman Anthony, Christian Campbell, Peyton Tolley, Connolly Early. Really, a whole bunch of guys got called up. So it's an interesting time to be a Red Sox. And this is what they're looking at right now at the current moment. Now, first, let me go over the free agents that they're losing. So at the moment, their free agents are Bregman, which we know had a huge impact. Oh, so DeLuca was for Glass now. Thanks, Carlos. But I knew that came from LA. So sorry about that. All right, Bregman, Giolito, Matsy, Justin Wilson, Ref Snyder, who could be a fit to go back. Feels like he had a nice little role there. Dustin May, which was an attempt at trying to fix a guy midstream, and it really backfired. And then Hendricks, he won't be back. Bregman's the big question and the big elephant in the room for this team as we go look through the lineup. Roman Anthony, Jarren Duran, who I've seen everywhere, is on the block. Story, Abreu, Yoshida, Narvaez, Casas, Meyer, and Rafaela. So I think it's, for the Red Sox, I think it's pretty clear. It's first and third base, potentially. First and third base upgrades. Starting pitching, I think they've already mentioned, Craig Breslow's already mentioned that he wants to go big fish hunting. In terms of starting pitching, whether that's from a trade, I've heard a lot of them being connected to Joe Ryan in trades. But I also think they could upgrade in the outfield. So it could be a corner outfielder if they do end up trading Duran, and then they can mess around with that because they have a little bit of a crowded outfield situation. Center field's pretty clearly Cedon Rafaela's position where they'd like him to be, I think, for the most part, because I think they're going to end up probably having Meyer at second base would be my guess, if Story's staying at short, and then third base is the other big spot. So let's go look at some of the third baseman and first baseman. I know they've been connected with Pete Alonso, along with Bregman as well at third, but it's interesting to see. All right, so let's go first base and third base by projected WAR. All right, so Bregman, Naylor off the board. I don't think they're in play for Suarez, although he might be pretty good with his pull pop and Fenway. Pete Alonso, man, great fit here. Love this fit. Don't know if that will actually happen, but I think that's the power bat that they maybe could really be using. I think when they lost Devers, that really hurt their power situation. So I do like the Pete fit there if they don't get Bregman. I do know Casas is there. To be honest, we just don't know enough about Casas yet. We just don't. So I also think sneaky. I mean, Paul Goldschmidt, probably not. Looking a little further down, I don't know. They need to get one of these, first or third basemen for sure. I think they'd love to bring Bregman back. I think he'll have a bigger market this year, but he had a huge impact on their team. There's also the opportunity of buying low with a trade for Arenado, which is a possibility. I know they almost traded for him last year. So, yeah, I mean, they need a power bat in the middle of the order. No doubt about that to continue kind of what they have going. Because if you look at it right now, who's the guy you're scared of in this lineup? Now, it's a good lineup. Roman Anthony could be that guy. But at the moment right now, with no Bregman in there, no Devers in there, who are two guys that were in there at various times last year, there's a big hole there. They're very left-handed. I really like Pete's fit on this roster. You get Pete, maybe you include Casas in a deal, and you worry about it for starting pitching. That's my personal thoughts I would go Bregman or Pete here. That would be my big move in the infield, and then you reshuffle from there. I'm a little surprised they're looking to trade Duran, but if they are, they'd have to get something of equal value, and then they're able to plug a little bit differently in the outfield. In a weird way, Yoshida's kind of crushing this roster. Good hitter and everything, but has no defensive value, doesn't allow them to cycle through the DH. So Yoshida's kind of hurting them in a potential Pete pursuit as well, because they probably want him to potentially DH. Now, Bregman and Pete is a bold idea, and if they did that, watch out league a little bit, because then you're looking at a lineup that could go Roman Anthony, Alex Bregman, Pete Alonso, and then you go from there. Like, that's a pretty good top three. I don't know if that will happen, but yeah, that's offensively. Now, pitching-wise, they've ended up in a weird spot as well. We know where Crochet is, and they certainly have a lot of other guys with depth here. I love Connolly Early. I love Brian Bayo. Cutter Crawford didn't pitch at all last year. Neither did Patrick Sandoval. They let Gio walk. So I expect them to go big game hunting. They still have Dick Fitz. They still have a few other guys. Tanner Houck getting Tommy John really hurt. But I'd like to see them go big for a starter. Probably a right-handed starter to pair with Crochet. You know who my favorite pitchers are. We already went over that, but we know who my favorite pitchers are in this class. So if I were them, I'd be all over Michael King. I'd be all over Merrill Kelly, Zach Gallen, even Chris Bassett. I don't think they need a lefty. Even Woodruff I could see being a fit there. I mean, they could bring Gio back, but I don't know. I don't know what that's going to end up looking like. But I would like to see a righty top-end guy. Joe Ryan would be a great trade. I'm just not in love with Cease, so that's why I wouldn't go for him, but I can understand why they did if they did, and that would make a little sense because the Red Sox are heavily drive line, pitch metric driven now. So they are stuff over everything, and that's Dylan Cease is getting a great high in that. So I could see them chasing him. But I think some of these other guys are a little better fit. Even Amai. I would love to see a dominant stuff righty head over to this team and join forces with Crochet. That would be exciting for me. Some questions here about Tolley. So personally, I don't think Tolley's ready for the big time every day in the rotation. I think it's best for him to go to AAA, continue to work on his secondary pitches, and if he shows feel for that, you ease him back in the rotation because he still has big rotational upside. But when I look at Tolley compared to Early's so much more of a complete package at pitcher right now in terms of mix and feel and command. So I would love Tolley in the bullpen, but like you don't want to do that to start the season. So they need to work on the secondaries. Jane's on it. I 100% agree. This guy, you got to develop this guy carefully because he could be a big-time starter, but you could mess up bad if you just send him to the bullpen and that's it. Like he never gets a chance to go back. So I don't know. I feel pretty good about that. Like I feel like I'm reading that pretty well. And then in the bullpen, I've heard a little bit of talk about making it a super bullpen. Now they brought back Araldis. Where's that? They brought back Araldis. We know him and Whitlock are a dynamite 8-9 combination. Slayton is sort of a fireman possibility, and then it's all matchup guys. Hicks looks to be a disaster. They're going to have to figure that out. Hicks is a big deal. But they have a couple things coming. Luis Perales, who is their number one pitching prospect, who's not on this board, but I want to show you something cool that I have here. This is the AFL Stuff Leaders by TJ Stuffs. Luis Perales was the number one leader in Stuff Plus of Arizona Fall League. So I saw Breslow talked a little bit about how he might get his feet wet in the bullpen, but this is another guy they have coming, whether it's relief or starting, as Luis Perales with Stuff. So you know they're going to push him because that's certainly how this organization is trending now. It's all about Stuff. Luis Perales being a guy on the radar now of the Red Sox. So yeah, I think they're big game hunting as well. It's one of the great things about the AL East. You feel like you're in striking distance, you go after the big dogs. I don't know if they're a fit for Kyle Tucker. Probably not. He's left-handed. I don't think they want to spend that money in that spot. But I love Pete. I love Bregman. If they could swing both, that would be amazing. They have to get at least one of those two in my mind to fill out their lineup. And then I think they should big game hunt a little bit for a starter, preferably a righty starter, whether that's trade or one of the righties that we talked about, I don't know. And then they're looking for one more reliever. I think if they don't hit with their big name guy in the starting, expect them to maybe pivot into big name territory in the bullpen. Now, I don't think they're going to bring in somebody to unseat Chapman, but they might bring in a pretty dominant guy that can go right in below him, and then they can use Whitlock in more than 3 out situations. This injury hurts a lot. Tanner Houck, who had probably one of the worst seasons I can imagine from a good pitcher last year. I was looking at it. I couldn't fathom how hard he got hit in his slight appearances last year. But dude, 8.04, I couldn't believe it. This guy was an all-star the year before. He's really good. So they'll hope to get him back the following year and loop him back in. But man, that hurts, because if they had him, they'd have a lot more depth at starter than they had before. Ref Snyder is another small move they could make on the bench, although they're kind of covered in that regard. They have these righties off the bench already that are versatile. Eaton and Gonzalez, they both showed well. Connor Wong's ingrained. Nathaniel Lowe is a weird bench piece to have. He's a starting first baseman, probably low end. If they go get Pete, that might spell the end of Nathaniel Lowe. I could even see him getting non-tendered this year. Be interesting to see. And then Costas, I think, has value around the league, although it's probably low. All right, so that's it for the Sox. One more team, and then Nolan's coming on in 15 minutes, so I got to hustle. And it's the New York Yankees. All right, Yankees finished tied top, first place with the Jays last year, as we know. Here are their free agents that they're losing. Bellinger, Grisham, both those guys got the qualifying offer. We know Bellinger probably already had one, so he doesn't have one maybe. But Grisham got one. I think he's going to take it, personally. Devin Williams, Goldie, Weaver, Ahmed Rosario, and then a bunch of dudes. Yarbrough came back. I don't know what they're going to do with Blackburn. DJ's not playing, probably. Stroman, don't know what's happening with him. Loaiza gets hurt, Slater, whatever. All right. They already took the Tim Hill, and they declined Loaiza this year, so that's interesting. All right, here's the lineup currently without doing any moves. Dominguez in left, Judge, Ben Rice at first, which I expect him to get the bulk of the playing time this year. Big G, Jazz, McMahon, and then shortstop, Caballero, Volpe, that continues to be a thing. Wellesley and Escar behind the plate. And then right now they have Spencer Jones penciled in. Now, Spencer Jones is like the ultimate wild card. He's very similar to Judge was as a prospect, maybe with even more miss. So at some point you're going to see Spencer Jones, but I don't think they'd like to rely on that. I think they need a big-time outfielder, so it's going to be Bellinger or Tucker, right? Those are the two they're probably going to go after, in addition to Grisham probably taking his qualifying offer. And then rotation, they're actually in great spot because they're going to get, Garrett, Rodon, and probably Clark Schmidt back at some point next year to pair with Fried and Schlittler. And then Heel, they need to have a good offseason with, and Will Warren. They are chock full of starters. So I think they're in a good spot. So, okay, so we have two comments here about Grisham. Brett B is saying Grisham would be smart to take it. He had an outlier. That's how I feel. But then Dan is saying they said Grisham is not expected to take it, knowing that this is his one possibility to maybe cash in on a multi-year deal in his career. And I get that. But if I were him, I'd run it back with the Yankees and then go back on a free agent next year. Hope to put up an 80% of the year I had before and go back out there with no QO and keep going. I think this QO is going to drag him down a lot. I'd be stunned if it did it, but I'm not an agent, so I don't know. And here's what Dano's saying about that. Don't you think Grisham could get a year equivalent to the QO plus a mutual option or two with a decent buyout from somewhere? I don't know. I think teams are going to call bullshit on his season. I really do. I mean, he's a good player, but his defense has declined a little bit. I call bullshit a little bit. Heard the Yankees are going to make a run at one of the Japanese guys. Now, I like Okamoto as a fit for the Yankees. I like Okamoto as a fit. He can play a little third. He can play a little first. He can play a little DH. Contact is not bad. He's got pop as well. Murakami, it's just like it would be reverting back to old Yankee mistakes. So then you get Murakami, you have to play him at third probably until you move him to first. He's got too much swing and miss in his game. All of a sudden, the Yankees will be too left-handed. I don't love that. LaGrange is a prospect that they have that's up and coming at some point that's going to impact the team offense, starting or relieving. We don't know yet. So I love the Yankees in their starting scenario. Obviously, going to have to do a lot more. They're going to have a lot more in the bullpen that they're probably going to want to do. What's it right now? Bednar, Camilo, Cruz, Hill, Leiter. That's very good in my mind. Top 5. Ian Hamilton and Jake Bird. who has upside, who looked bad when he came over, but he's got upside. And then Brendan, they're okay in the bullpen, but I think they could use one really good one. I don't think it's going to be Devin coming back. They're always creative. They always find a way to have a good bullpen. So I think they need to focus on those two big fish potentially that they're chasing, whether it be Kyle Tucker, which would take their lineup up a couple notches. Like if they did get Kyle Tucker, Spencer Jones is now out of here, and you put Kyle Tucker in that 3-hole right behind Judge, then you can put Ben Rice maybe into the leadoff spot. And then Jazz is still behind Stan. I mean, now the lineup's looking really a lot better. And the bottom of the order is not as great, but at least it's not as defensively challenged as well. Kyle Tucker would do a lot for this team. Also, retaining Bellinger, which is probably the cheaper option, is a great secondary move as well. So one of those two guys, if I'm the Yankees, I gotta have it. And then I think you work on the bullpen. For me, that would be the main stuff. The looming lockout could have a big impact on whether he takes it or not. Perhaps. There's so much unknown with a potential lockout, so we don't have a great feel for any of that. Let's see. It's so crazy that they're saying Grish is expected to decline. I mean, $22 million. There's no doubt it's an outlier season, right? Let's go look at our guy Trent for a minute. And I love Trent Grisham. He's one of the more swaggy players I've ever seen. He had a hell of a year with the bat. I mean, look at that, 90th percentile ex-WOBA. But he's just never had this year. You know, he's just never had this year before. So it's interesting to me. Let's go look at his other years in comparison. So this is his body of work up until recently. And he got almost no at-bats in 2024. But, you know, the expected batting average has been below average since 2020, which was a fake year anyway. This year, finally, the slugging jumped back up. That had been low. He definitely increased his exit velo. Maybe he did some player development stuff with the Yankees that really clicked. But it's not like the strikeout rate. It got better, but it's not like it's that much better. Chase rate, 99th percentile. That's his superpower as a hitter. He doesn't chase, doesn't expand. So that's a stickier stat, but this is scary. Speed and outs above average. You used to get a top of the scale defender in Grisham, and now you're not getting that anymore, and that's a little bit of a concern. Bat speed's never really been there. I don't know. I just think it's an outlier season. I'd be stunned if he gets paid for this season and not for some of the other years. Like you go look at 24, he didn't really play much at all. 23, you know, the metrics just aren't there as much. He's just really good at not chasing, and that's probably the stickiest, best thing he does offensively. But you can't expect him to pop another 34 home runs and have another OPS over 800 when he was averaging under a 700 OPS pretty much every other year. So I think the Yankees are pretty much straightforward. They're big game hunting with either Tucker or Belly, and monitoring what happens with Grisham's decision. That'll affect whether they need another outfielder or not. I think they should be dedicated to maintaining their defensive upgrade that they had the last few years on the infield. And then I think pitching, it's mostly bullpen. You got to love where they're going to look in about July of this season when they should be clicking on all cylinders from the rotation. You're going to have Garrett Cole, you're going to have Carlos Rodon, you're going to have Max Fried, Cam Schlittler, and then somebody who pops from Heel, Warren, Clark Schmidt, etc. So I really love where they are from a starting pitching standpoint. And actually, the beginning of their bullpen's good. I think they could use one or two more and then some depth pieces. But they should have a pretty simple offseason. I think if they hit this right, the addition of Garrett Cole could be the thing that pushes them into first place in this division this year. At least that's what I'd be thinking if I were the Yankees. I'm curious what everybody else thinks. Dano says baseball is better when the Yankees are spending $20 million for like a one-run upgrade. I love it too. I'm big on the Yankees and the other big markets flexing their muscles. Huge on that. Let's see. Cruz is an interesting pitcher. I'm only going to do one more minute on the Yankees because then I have to take a break before we're going to get Nolan on here. But Fernando Cruz is such an interesting pitcher over the last several years. He's sort of like Nick Pivetta before Nick Pivetta a little bit, if you want to take that route a little bit from, you know, Nick Pivetta had like great strikeout rate. things like that. It hadn't really translated to a great ERA yet until he goes to the Padres. It was like kind of like frustrating with the Red Sox. I think Cruz is a little bit like that. 4.91, 4.86, 3.56. But you see the strikeouts. I mean, 98, 109, 72, and only 48 innings. Like, this is a guy that you need, and I think he's not done. There's some small adjustment in terms of consistency to make this guy click. And once they figure that out, I think Fernando Cruz, could be one of the better relievers. Could be one of the better relievers in the game. But we're still waiting to see the fully formed version of him. This year they had him throw some more sinkers. That was an adjustment to go along with that split. A few more sliders. So everybody's trying to figure out what to do with him. They got rid of that cutter, which was a disaster in Cincinnati. But again, he's got big upside. So I'm good with Cruz. What else we got? Just throw splitters to Grisham and he turns into a ghost. No doubt. A lot of guys, especially that Savage splitter, right? He had no shot. And you think about it, if they have to play big games against the Blue Jays, Grisham doesn't match up well against those two pitchers. Grisham's power comes from the mustache. Shave it and he'll be toast, handlebar style, and all right to an all-star bucket. I love that. All right, well, we're excited now for the Arenado. So that's it for the Yankees. I think those were pretty much straightforward. We covered all 5 teams in the AL East. On Wednesday, we'll do probably NL East. But I'm going to take a 4 or 5 minute break, and I'll come back with Arenado. We'll hit 3 topics, and that'll be it for the show today. Thanks for hanging out with me today on Baseball and Coffee. I am going to take a 4 or 5 minute break. If you want to throw some questions in the chat, we might have time. He doesn't have as much time as some of these others. But I have a couple topics lined up for him. But I don't know. We'll see how much time we have for him. So, all right, I'm going to hop over here. I'm going to put us on mute for a bit. And when I come back in 4 or 5 minutes, we'll have Nolan Arenado on here. So thanks for hanging with me so far, and stay tuned for that interview. All right, I'll see you in a bit. All right, we're back. I'm about to bring Nolan in here real quick on the main screen. Let me just figure that out real quick. Hold on. All right, he should pop in here any second. There he is. What's up, buddy?
Good.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. It's good to see you.
Good.
Getting ready to have another exciting day of training today?
Yep. Can't wait.
So anyway, thanks for doing this. I just have the 3 topics. I sent them to you yesterday, so we'll make it pretty easy.
Tell Nolan I say hi.
Oh, Brett says hi, by the
Tell
way.
him I miss him and I love him.
And that she misses you and loves you.
Go to Jupiter in January?
Yeah, I think that's the plan. We're gonna see
What?
Okay.
about going to Jupiter in January.
Oh, we are. Tell him I need to see his cute little face.
What's it called? Do you want to do a one-on-one day or two in person?
Yeah, maybe. We'll see. We'll see what you're up to.
Okay.
All right. I have to be careful to talk when you talk because every time I talk, it's like muting you. So let me just ask the question and then wait 1 second. All right. So the first question is, look, as long as I've been knowing you, you've been traveling all around the country in the off season to train. I know that initially it probably started with maybe going to the Tulo stuff, but I was curious kind of what the inspiration behind all of that. I think a lot of people like to know a little bit more about your work ethic and kind of what are some of the cooler things you've done.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's been like, I think I just want to see what people are doing. Sure, I'm staying up to date on some new training, I guess, or just adapting to the styles of what's going on. I think, obviously, I learned a lot from Tulo. I've learned a lot from a lot of people. I learned a lot from Goldie. That's probably the most I've learned from just watching him train and, to see how he keeps up with his body at his age and consistent still. So I just think it's important because there's a traditional way of lifting, and that doesn't necessarily make you the best athlete and the best baseball player. There's a proper way to adapt, and as you get older, I just like to see what's going on. So that's just kind of the main reasons why I do it.
Yeah, it's been fascinating to see people coming with different alternate training methods over the past few years. Obviously, the Japanese guys stand out a lot, Yamamoto and different people. And one of the things that I noticed as I aged in my career was, there's certain athleticism traits that start to trend the wrong direction if you don't train them. I've seen that with myself and with other players. So, you start looping in more movement type things and start different types of strategies as you get older because you have no choice.
Yeah, I mean, I think for sure. I think that the thing that I've noticed is like everyone has their different ways, and but as you get older, there's certain your body, like your movements, like just aren't like I can't wake up and just go hit anymore. Like that's just not. I'm not saying that was the right thing to do, but when you were younger, you're able to get away with it. So nowadays, I have to make sure I properly, activate, make sure I'm ready to go, I'm ready to fire, and when I am, that's when I feel young again. But I try to work through things without having a proper lift or the proper activation. I really feel it.
Yeah, that checklist got so long for me at the end. Like I was getting to the ballpark. It was like an hour before I could go play catch, and I'd just go play catch at, 70, 80%. So I can relate to that for sure. All right. So obviously we all know you're one of the greatest players of all time, but certainly one of the best defenders of all time, especially at third base. I was lucky I had the front row seat to it. I've seen your work ethic, I've seen what you do, but we have a lot of kids that watch the show, and I just want to see if you could give maybe 1 or 2 nuggets on your routine, what your mindset is about taking ground balls, getting better at that, how you stay kind of at the top of your game, and how you've always approached that.
Yeah, I mean, I think I take a lot of pride in it. As many baseball swings as I'm gonna hit, I'm gonna probably do the same amount defensively. That's just kind of how I've always saw it, and I always want to be like I used to try to trick my mind into thinking that I have to even myself out. So if I'm going to hit as much as I'm going to hit, then I need to go take ground balls as much as I'm going to take ground balls because I can't just be, I can't let my defense slide. It's really important to me. I also love taking ground balls. I generally just love working on it. So like that's also part of it. I love the process of it. I love going on a field and taking ground balls and throwing across a diamond and doing the Derek Jeter play and doing it different angles and all that. So like I generally love that stuff. So it's easy for me to go out there and work. But I think, for me, the main thing is trying different plays constantly. Challenging myself for different throws, different angles, and being okay with practice not being perfect because that's why I'm out there, and knowing that if I work on it in the game, my instincts will take over, and I might be able to accomplish those plays.
Yeah, I've seen Dansby Swanson talk about how he thought the best way to train kids was kind of put them in the infield, make them field everything on the run with one hand, and just kind of make it up as you go, throw from every angle, and kind of work on your instincts. I've always noticed you guys, particularly when we were together with the Rockies, doing stuff like that. It's more of a randomized style process because that's what it is in the game. You have to react and feel comfortable in every type of way.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is a great way. I mean, I don't know why kids just don't go out. Like, I see a lot of drills happening on the internet and like different things, and I'm all for drills. Like, I'm not against it, but I really do believe. How about you go on the field, do a bunch of backhands, forehands, spin throws, Derek Jeter plays, and see how many you can accomplish like game speed, and then go from there. Because when you're taking, when you're doing drills on turf and all that, that's not the same bounce you're going to get on a baseball field. So I just think just throwing from different angles, challenging yourself, and being okay, not being perfect, is going to really help you, get better.
Do you draw any inspiration from that from like basketball players and stuff? Because I've seen like Kevin Durant talk about doing everything game speed. I know that you're a big Kobe guy. Like, do you feel like any of that kind of leaked into your mindset?
Yeah, for sure. I think obviously watching them how they would practice, how hard they would practice. You watch you watch the Michael Jordan documentary. I mean, he was hard in practice, and in the off season. You watch Tiger Woods, right? Ball farther than actually like letting it fly. Perfect, but he knew that like he had to find the fine line there. So it's just constantly pushing the limits a little bit. And I think with ground balls, you know, if you're a good fielder, your errors are okay as long as the effort is right. And I think these guys goes and go.
Yeah. No, you're the man. You're the man. Obviously, we all know that. I was curious because this is a little bit off of topic in terms of baseball, but you are the ultimate taco connoisseur when it comes from around the country. You and Big G are the two. You and Stanton, I would say. And you put me onto a spot that I can't even find on the internet. I was trying to look for it yesterday. La Frachada, which we used to go to at like 1, 2 in the morning in San Diego. I can't even find it on the internet. But I put down 5 of my favorite taco spots in America, and I can go over those. But I'm curious if you have any that jump into your mind.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. 5 would be tough, but for sure. So the pink taco was really good. Pink Tacos was really good in LA, but I think they shut down now. Um,
Mm.
Puesto's, I love Puesto. Pretty, it's not like La Fachada. La Fachada is probably my number one when it comes to it. It's just like you walk in there, you're like, oh man, this is gonna be legit, and it just is. The environment's great. It feels like you're like it doesn't feel like you're in, it feels like Mexico, really. Like, you know what I mean? It's just awesome, and the food is money. The people are. That was probably the best times when we used to go there like late in the mornings and be like, dude, food, come over this, and that was the best.
Yeah, right off the plane, like 5 or 6 of us head over there. It was always the best. So my top 5 are Lucido's Tacos in Chicago, which is a good spot I would recommend. My spot in New York is Taco Mix, which is in Harlem. I think I might have sent you there one time, but it's pretty authentic. We don't have. It's definitely, if I had to pick cities, New York's not in the top 5. Like they're mostly out west, but this one's solid. Taco Sinaloa in Oakland, which is a truck that used to come to the field, was
Yeah,
fire.
yeah,
I would have a hard time because I would want to eat like 10 of those things, but I have a game to play. And then a sneaky one is this place that in Fort Myers, because I was in spring training with the Red Sox a few times. My spot was Tacos San Julian in Fort Myers, for anybody who's down that area. So I don't know. Nolan's the taco connoisseur. He put me on from the beginning. And, really everywhere we've been going throughout the years, we've been looking for taco spots. I think that's the best way to go. All right, so real quick, I had your defense going here. There's one play I want to ask you about, which I'll find. It's the scariest play I ever witnessed. It's not this one. It's the one in San Francisco down the line on the tarp right here. I mean, were you not scared?
no, I was really scared. I mean, as I was running, I kind of knew the formation of the field, so I always knew that I had a little bit of space as I was going for that ball, but I knew the tarp was coming. And you know, I didn't really think about fear or anything. I kind of just went, and you know, thank God I knew the dimensions, and I knew I knew home plate was like right there. I knew I wasn't close to the mound. So yeah, I just went for it, man. And you know, that field is crazy because the wind is just nuts. You know, the balls will go, you know, I've seen balls get hit so far foul left and then they come back fair. You know, it's easy to give up on it, but I just realized with that ball, like that ball's going to come back, and it just always does. You know, the ball always comes back toward the field after the ball's hit the left. So
Yeah, you
that's
just
just
you knew you had room, but then that tarp kind of snuck up on you, no?
yeah,
My
yeah, for sure.
God.
And it hit me hard. I'm just glad it kind of like swept me pretty good under. You know, I didn't like get caught under because I would have messed up my knee pretty bad. But I
Yeah.
was a little banged up after that. I hurt a little bit for sure.
I think I was just about to go warm up. Like I was like standing at the top of the stairs with my glove, and Rafi was pitching there, and I just remember like everybody in the dugout like freezing for a second, like is he okay? And then you pop up and you throw a third, like trying to get a double play, which is insane. So that was awesome. All right, let's watch. You want to watch me face you real quick as we finish this off?
Let's do it.
All right, so we'll start with the first one. I got you out the first few times, and then it kind of backfires. So
Only one time.
yeah, but it was a big one. It was a game winner. So here's the very first time. I have to say, it's very hard to face people that you're close with. Very hard for me to like go up there against you and not be thinking about what you're thinking about or anything, and I have to try to clear my mind. Not easy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like facing people. You know, I think that's what it comes down to. You know, you not like I got, you know, we played together for so long. We've hung out so many times. You're one of my closest friends in the game. So to face you, like, you know, 'cause I know Brett's your family's in the stands, my family's in the stands. Like, you know, I think we went to go eat dinner after this game too, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's so weird. It's so strange how that can play out.
Yeah, and I don't like it. You know, I never liked facing you. One, because it was hard to pick you up. You knew you threw really cross body, really tougher hitters. Oh, I wish that would have. But you know, I like I said, it just when you face people you like really like, it's just not great because you know I don't like that feeling. I like to go up there, clear mindset, and I don't just try to get you're trying to get me out. So
All right, so let's watch the last two that I was thinking of in my mind. This one, I came in a big spot and I actually struck you out here. And then the very next day, you clipped me for a home run. So let's just watch these two back to back. This first one, I remember, with you guys that knew me a little bit, I would try to go off the script a little bit there, like first pitch cutter, like try not to get ambushed. Ultimately, I'm going to get into slider sinker, but trying to steal a strike, wasn't able to do it there. And if I recall, I actually threw you some decent changeups in this 2-day span, which kind of makes no sense. But again, I was just trying to stay off the beaten path. I was like, he knows my game. Let's not give him what he thinks is coming. Like, let's see what this is. This is a changeup right here coming.
yeah, I mean, when I'm hitting right there, I'm like, since when does he do this? Since when does he go up on that second?
Yeah.
Literally,
Dude, I just was like, I just have to stay unpredictable. You know what I mean? And then I was able to come up top with a four seam here, I believe. Right. So get you that at bat. Next at bat, I see you and Goldie over there thinking about what your approach is gonna be off of me. And I don't know why I like completely went away from my game, but I was like, man, I'm just gonna like trust my sinker here a little bit against Nolan, and I end up getting clipped for the game winning home run. So this is the at bat. First pitch change up. So I started off smart, and then I started to lose it here a little bit.
I think the only reason why I was able to hit this ball finally off you is because you threw you went I think you went change up, slider, change up.
Change up, slider, cutter.
I was like, in my mind, I was like, he has to throw the sinker at some point. It has to come. He has to. He can't like. And then the fact that it was 2-1, I was like, he has to establish some sort of fastball at some point. You know,
Yeah, I see you thinking here. I see you thinking right now. You're like, maybe he'll come with the sinker this next pitch.
I think with your sweepy slider, I was like, you know, I think I probably told myself if he throws a good one, you're not gonna hit it anyways, so you might as well just stay on the sinker. And that's
Yeah.
just kind of
Yeah, I gave it to you right down the middle.
I love that I hit that out. I hate that it was against you. That was the only time I've ever hated. I never liked the home
Well,
stretches.
I could tell because you sprinted around the bases. You wanted that moment to be over pretty quickly.
Yeah, I always kind of move kind of fast, but yeah, that one for sure. I did not was like I'm not gonna, like I can't show up my boy.
Yeah, look at my reaction right here. I'm like, damn it, what am I doing? It's just funny because I felt pretty nasty the day before. I was like, man, like I'm pretty nasty. Like I think I struck you and Goldie out. I'm like, I'm feeling myself. And that's baseball though. You come back the next day and you lose it the same way the next day. So
I think what I learned after that bat is like, obviously you went change up, slider. It was a nasty slider. It'd be okay looking ugly, but you just cannot miss the heater because I felt like in so sleepy that was my only chance to hit you was the fastball. So and I just out front because if you watch the side video, you should see I got that ball really out front.
I actually have that. Hold on. We have one more second. I can grab it off the dugout app. This was what's the date of this game? This was the 18th in 2023. I can get you here real quick. Hold on.
Out front because I knew or I had to be ready for it.
Yeah, so you were on time. You were on time basically. All right, one sec. All right, this was 2020. What did I say? 2023. Yeah, I think it was the 18th. Let's see. Pretty dope that I have this app, though. I can go back and look.
Sick.
This is not the game. Hold on. Let me just check this. It's 6/18, 2023. That's weird. All right, it's Mets, Cardinals. Yeah, here it is. All right, here we go. Here's the side view on it.
Down front.
Yeah, you caught it right there.
Catching that thing, I was like, getting beat.
Yeah. It's a beautiful thing. And I love watching your swing because of the way you're always so head down, like on the bat. Is that something you were taught from a young age? Is that something that was like one of the first things you were taught? It's like see the ball off the bat?
Yeah, I think for me, yeah, and like in high school, we weren't even allowed to really pull our head up. You know, everything would had to be hit like to right center, second base. You weren't peak. So it was like a kind of like a drill we would do BP, like you're not allowed to peek and see the ball. So we would swing and make sure we would keep our head there. And you know, it got to a point in pro ball too where we would do that. And you had to be able to say where it went without even looking. So it was just kind of a good drill, and I just kind of overemphasized it a little bit. Obviously, I overdo it, kind of where it came from.
So in a way, it sort of keeps you from pulling out too early because if you have to track it all the way in, then your chest stays over the plate.
Exactly. You know, you don't want to take your head to the ball, but you do want to keep your head on the ball the whole time, for sure.
All right, that's dope. All right, that's it, bro. That's all I got for you. That's it. Nothing else.
All right, well, hey, I'll see you in Jupiter whenever.
All right, thanks for stopping through. I appreciate it, man. All right, later.
Later, bro.
All right, that was Nolan. Obviously, we had a little bit of an issue there, audio wise, but you know, we had a good time either way. Talked a little bit about his philosophy on defense, philosophy on training, philosophy on head down on the ball. So those are all good topics for kids at home. Hopefully, hopefully some of that came through a little bit on the audio because on my side it was definitely a little sketched out. But either way, it was cool that he came through. One of the best players of all time. You know, clearly, and I'm a little biased. I think he's the best defender of all time at third base. I am extremely biased when it comes to Nolan because I've seen his whole entire career in front of my eyes. So I remember when he showed up in spring training the first year. So that must have been 2013. And I remember just thinking to myself, oh shit, after about a week, this is our best player, and he's not even going to make the opening day roster. I remember I pissed him off because we went to lunch. Me, him, and some other younger guys went to lunch. I took some of the younger guys out to lunch, and I remember he was asking me what I thought his chances of making the club was, and I remember I told him 0. And I didn't realize that I was being a dick at that time. But then later when we got close, he was like, man, you really like rocked my world when you told me I had 0 chance to make the team. But it was mainly because I knew that we were gonna service time manipulate him a little bit. Like that was just the reality of it. And Chris Nelson was gonna play third until Nolan was past a certain date where they could keep him for the additional year of control. So that's what ended up happening. He came up like May that year, and the rest is history. You know, we got to watch just the best defender I've ever seen, and pretty damn good hitter. A lot of 40 home run years, a lot of 130 plus RBI years with the Rockies. So he's looking to have a big bounce back this year, but it's one of my buddies. He never comes on anything, so it's cool for him to come on and give us a little bit of information. All right, let's get in the chat here for a second as we wrap today up. So I know that his brother, this is a question that was for Nolan from Victoria. I can actually answer this. Jonah is working with the agency Wasserman now. Used to actually faced Jonah, which is hilarious. I faced Jonah Arenado in high A when I was rehabbing my Tommy John. And I remember he texted his brother that he had faced me because we had been friends or whatever. And I actually walked him. And I remember he was saying that his brother was weak for not trying to swing against me and just trying to draw a walk. So great family. Josh Fuentes as well, big leaguer, is Nolan's cousin. So that whole crew, big time ball players. They also grew up with Trace and Clay Thompson. So I don't know, pretty cool. And do we think bulked baseball players lose their flexibility? It's not so much flexibility, it's like mobility, like usable flexibility. Like you have to be able to get into deep positions. That starts to lessen over time. And then also it's like speed. It's like impulse, like how quickly you can react to something and fire. Those things tend to decline as you get older. And I think that's a little bit of what Nolan's dealing with, as well as a lot of us over the year. So anyway. I didn't bully him. He knows where I'm coming from. We'll definitely do something in person. I just don't know what we're going to do. I mean, maybe we'll come up with a longer show. He has so many good nuggets of information in there. But today he's has to go train. One thing about Nolan is you cannot mess with his training. We went on vacation one time and he was doing dry swings the entire day. So you can't mess with his training. I have to be respectful of that. He's about to go and do his thing. And that's pretty much how it is. What else we got? This is also an interesting thing. El Toro High School, California. Matt Chapman played a little shortstop. Nolan played a little third, and then later they both became two of the greatest third basemen in defensive history, which is phenomenal. So, yeah. I don't know about a golf stream. We can maybe make a video together golfing. He's a great golfer. Of course, he's good at everything. So I have a long way to go until I could even golf with him and feel confident, but that would be pretty cool. All right. Anyway, that was cool. On to the next. Next show we'll do on Wednesday, we'll probably do another division, probably NL West or AL Central. Needs. We'll go, look at some other things. Hopefully there'll be some more moves to break down, some other stuff going on. But overall, that's kind of the show for the day. Let's see if I missed anything. No, we talked about all of those teams, free agent tracker, Fernando Cruz. We talked about winter ball. All right, maybe there's one more thing in the chat, and then I can see it later. Active players in total zone runs at third base. Arenado 106, almost lapping the field. Chapman 65, Machado 61. So pretty incredible stuff. I don't know. He's a vacuum. You go watch his YouTube highlights. They can go on for 45 minutes of just stupid plays that literally like could have only been one out. Sometimes he gets 2 outs on these stupid plays. So I don't know. He's amazing. He's incredible. He's still working so hard to bounce back. I know that mostly it's a physical thing at this point. So hopefully he can get his body where he wants it. And then I think some team will benefit from a buy low on Nolan this offseason. And we'll see which team that's going to be. But some team's going to have to take the leap of faith with him, of course. That's the whole other thing. They thought Nolan was originally, if you look at it, I think he was drafted as a catcher. Jerry Weinstein, who actually is a catching coach, was somebody who coached Nolan in high A and was one of the big reasons why he became such a good defender, really putting that those practice things that he, those practice constraints that he puts in on himself into place. And just, I love the fact that he talked about he wanted to be balanced out. Like he felt like for as many swings as he takes, he should be taking ground balls. I promise you, most baseball players are not that way. They're going to do whatever they have more fun doing, which is probably hitting, and they're going to ignore their defensive a lot. But take it from a guy who's, made hundreds of millions of dollars and going to probably go to the Hall of Fame, mostly on the strength of his defense, that it's pretty cool to do both. You should definitely balance yourself out if you can. I love that. I love that approach out of him. We talked about this a little bit earlier. Yarborough's back with the Yankees. I would be so paranoid at my golf swing, mess up my baseball swing. I think a lot of hitters are that way. Some aren't, though. Some aren't. McNeil never seemed to worry about it. A lot of other guys, but I heard Chapman say Nolan pitched once randomly in a high school game and threw a 3-hit shutout. Also wouldn't surprise me. He's just a great athlete. You do anything with Nolan, he's just good at it right away. He's just one of those guys. It's funny because he's not fast, but he's just coordinated in every kind of way. So interesting guy to watch. And pitching doesn't surprise me. He's got a good arm. I was looking at his hardest throws. They have in the research tool here are interesting. Actually, I think I have it on his page. Hold on. Yeah. It's funny because his hardest throw is only not as hard as I would have thought. Yeah, 90.4 right here. Seems like Jorge De La Rosa was pitching a lot of these highlights. But this is his hardest throw. I mean, it's a pretty good arm. That's 91 across the diamond. So you can see if he's pitching, he could probably throw in the 90s. This is another 90-mile-an-hour throw. I'm curious to see. And now I'm just kind of waiting. Oh, look at Buck. You see Buck on the... John Gray. Oh, Nolan in the shift. Oh, he realized a little late that he had to throw that ball. Look at Buck right here. This is such a typical Buck in Baltimore right here. Anyway, this was the old shift where Nolan's literally playing shortstop here, which is insane because he's the third baseman. And we don't see this anymore. But anyway, there's the arm. All right, back to the solo shot. What did I do in 2022? Actually talked about this the other day with Eric Hosmer because Hos was on the Padres when Nolan charged the mound against Perdomo, which I guess I could pull up real quick on YouTube. So freaking funny. Nothing really happened. Nobody really connected with any of these punches. But you want to talk about just one of the funnier events that I've ever seen. This one right here. Myself and Wade Davis were inside, so we had to run down the stairs and come out in our shorts and stuff. And I held back a whole bunch of people. Nobody ever connected. But this was so funny. And this is, I think, before John Boy. So, I don't know. There's a lot of anger in this. Our two teams did not like each other very much at the time. I think this might have been one of the times I told Craig Stammen to shut the fuck up, current manager of the Padres. So this was an interesting time. It got a little wild. I think actually Marquez did some dumb shit at the end where he snapped a towel over the top and hit somebody with the towel. I think, yeah, there it is. He snaps him with the towel and then they get pissed at Marquez and he comes running out of there. Wonder if I can find myself, because this is the second pile. Let's see if I can find myself here. Pause. I had somebody wrapped up at one point. I'm in the scrum there. I don't know where. Where am I? I don't know. I'm in there somewhere holding people back, doing my job. That's about it. Anyway, that was always funny. Oh, she meant against the Mets when Lopez threw at him. Oh, that was crazy too. That was a whole wild thing. Honestly, I don't think Nolan deserved that, if I recall correctly. Yohan Lopez went in and went right at Nolan with something, and he got pissed. Wow, what year was that? That was 2022? Yeah, that was crazy. Let me find that. Cardinals, Mets. Let me find that. I'll put it up on here in a sec. Dude, Nolan's had a lot of things. Then later that year, he was hearing it pretty good from the bench, I want to say. Here, it's probably this one. Yeah, Yohan Lopez. What? Maybe he had already pitched in this series. Let me find it again. Lopez, Diaz, May, Diaz. There's a John Boy breakout of this one. I could have swore it was this day game. Did Nolan play in this game? It's weird because it's 3 for 3 with a walk.
By Dickerson, infield hit, then the triple.
Sean Reed Foley here. I don't know where it is. Lopez got ejected, so that's why I think it's hard to find. Molina, Sosa, Edman, Goldschmidt. I don't know. Can't find it, but it definitely happened. It exists out there in the internet. I just remember it was one of those things where we actually felt bad for Yohan Lopez because he went in there. He was like just called up. He goes and hits somebody, gets like a 3-game suspension. And now I'm like, this 3-game suspension is really holding Yohan Lopez back from getting called up again. Like, you can't call somebody up who's suspended. So he was kind of screwed. And I felt bad for him because he tried to be a warrior, do whatever the team wanted. I do think it was on purpose. But I don't remember what Nolan did so bad. I think were we mad about the incident with Pete on the side with Stubby Clapp? I think that's what we were talking about. I think we were mad about something with Pete. He got in a little wrestling match with the first baseman, right? Over some first base coach over something. Or maybe that was in the battle. I don't remember. But John Boy's got it. So we'll go. Google says April 27th. But would that be 23? Man, I guess I'll do one more look at it. All right, let's just try this again. Mets Cardinals 2022 April 27th. Yeah, this is the same game. It happens in this game. I just don't know, like, does Nolan get taken out mid at bat or something? Like, I don't get it. I don't see him up here at all. Well, it's not that. It's not Brendan Donovan. Sosa. Edman. I don't think it would be Goldie. He wouldn't have been in the game. Here it is.
Facing Nolan Arenado, who's been on base 4 times. First pitch up and in.
First pitch up and in. Nolan already mad about it. Nodding. Oh man, this was so good.
Who's been on base 4 times. First pitch up and in.
And then is there another pitch here? Oh yeah, he's already out of the game. They both got ejected already after this.
Who's been on base 4 times.
So we don't get the extended version. Obviously, John Boy's in on it, but you can see Nolan's not happy. One thing that Nolan used to get pissed about when we were together was when he had to be the one to take the beating for something dumb that somebody else did. Because that happened a lot in Colorado. Like, when you're the best player, a lot of times, like, you accidentally hit a Goldschmidt and they're mad at you, they're coming after Nolan. So, yeah. Anyway, that was good. He's had a couple beefy moments over the years. He's a fiery player. He is. You can't let that leak up. I think that maybe they were trying to hit him, but yeah, got to be in the butt if you're going to try to hit him. If I recall correctly, we were mad about something. And we were just pissed. Definitely 2022, we were mad at the beginning of the year. Guys were getting hit left and right like crazy. So that was probably a little bit of that. But anyway, it's pretty cool. All right, we're going to wrap up the show there. I'm going to go continue on with my day. But that was a pretty fun Monday. We looked at a lot of different random topics. I appreciate everybody who joined me today in the chat and everything else. And Wednesday, we'll do a whole show. Probably won't have a guest, but we'll do a whole show on one of the divisions and other things that pop up. Join the Discord. There's a link in my off my YouTube page if you want to come in and drop some topics, anything else you guys want to see. But I appreciate you guys. This was solid, and we'll edit that Nolan part out and probably throw that up as a standalone video. Hopefully the audio is good enough, because I've been trying to figure out, and I think I'll get them up by the end of the week. Like all the conversations, we'll get those into audio only pods as well, so they'll be able to grab wherever you get your podcasts and stuff like that, and not have to put on YouTube if you're in a car or whatever, stuff like that. So working on that. But anyway, peace out. Have a great time, and I'll see you guys on Wednesday. All right, thanks for a great show. See you guys later. Bye.